Now, let's talk about free will. Now, free will is a question which has vexed philosophers for thousands of years, and I have determined that they're all a bunch of idiots. The debate in free will is between free will and determinism. So basically, determinism means that any decision you make can be predicted if you know enough about your history. And the position of free will is that you can sort of have this free to choose to break free of destiny or something. It's a bit vague, but anyway, it's something like that. So, what goes into making a decision? Well, if you're a sane person, it's based on a mixture of your past experiences, knowledge, and innate preferences. So, that's all pretty deterministic. So, a proponent of free will says that there's sort of a random element in there which you could just make any decision you wanted to make. Sort of like you... But if you want to make the decision, then that's based on, well, your past experiences and innate preferences, isn't it? So some people sort of hide behind and say, oh no, there's just sort of some kind of random element in your decisions, like some kind of coin or dice in your brain which just goes, blue, could go anywhere. But that doesn't give you free will, that just makes you a random bloody idiot. Ooh, what am I going to do? Hit myself with this. I flipped a coin and it said yes. Doesn't make sense. Randomness is not free will. Now, if you're a religious person, you might say, well, there's this soul, sort of detached from the deterministic biology of your brain, which can make decisions for good or evil. But I don't think that's really creating this sort of philosophical idea of free will. That's just adding another layer of cause and effect. What does this soul do? It's just sort of the choices the soul makes is, if it's anything like a human mind, is based again on the mixture of its past experiences, knowledge, and innate good or evilness, which is presumably just comes out of its conception or something. Seems to be something like that. So anyway, this philosophical idea of free will is pretty weird. But the colloquial definition of free will is a bit more down to earth, like well, you might even catch me saying that I made this decision of my own free will, which basically means that I wasn't coerced, I just calmly came to a rational decision based on my past experience, knowledge and preferences, which is all just a deterministic chain of events, isn't it? Now, when you, in your day-to-day life, you don't sort of feel like what happens in your decisions you make is predetermined, of course, because, well, you don't know. If you already knew what decision to make, it wouldn't be an act of making up a decision, would it? So, of course, well, to all practical purposes, this philosophical ideas of free will really has no consequence of the real world at all, really, except that it is used in our justice system. Well, all justice systems think of really our world. Anyway, there seems to be this idea that if you find out the psychological reason that a criminal does something, then you shouldn't be punished for it, just, I don't know, treated in a psychiatric hospital or something and released a couple of years later with a few meds. But, really, if you think about it, all criminals are insane, really. I mean all the gory, all the violent crimes and stuff. Normal people don't do crime, they just sort of think, oh, that's a bit risky or not very nice, but it's just people who've got something wrong in their head who do crime. That's why we lock them up, because if you just have them all running around everywhere, they'd be just doing crime all the time. So, just because you found out the reason someone commits crime doesn't give you a reason just to release them again at a shorter notice and to commit core crime. No, it's just another reason to lock them up, really. See, I mean, all criminals are pretty nuts. I mean, almost all of them on release just sort of go and commit crimes again, so As all I'm saying, we've got to find a good treatment for this insanity. Now, I advocate amputating the defective organ. I mean, it also has the consequence of death, but I mean, their lives are pretty miserable anyway, so might as well just euthanize them, I think. I mean, lots of criminals are pretty suicidal anyway. You have to put them on suicide watch and stuff. But instead of trying to stop them from doing that, we should just sort of like help them along. Go here, step into this guillotine over here. That'll work a lot better than that makeshift noose made out of his shoelaces. I mean, it's just being kind, really. If someone's life is miserable, who's to say that just extending the length of it will be any better off for them? So that's my rant about free will.